AITA for calling the police on my client? 28F. Do babysitting on the weekends to make some babysitting on the weekends to make extra cash. There is one family I definitely should have phased out by now, but the kids are cute, and if I don't have another job, it's easy money. My issue is, the mom is never home on time. She used to not give me return times, but finally I started asking, as it made it impossible to get anything done on the weekends. I'd go babysit so she could go to brunch, but she'd be gone from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. My whole day was gone. After that, she'd start giving me times but never stick to them. She wouldn't even call to tell me. She'd just stay out. On Saturday, I got to her house at 6 and she was supposed to be home by 9. I told her she needed to be on time because I had plans to go out with friends. I was even getting ready at their house after I put the kids to bed. She promised. Of course. 9 o'clock rolls around and she's not home. I call her. No response. Text. No response. Another hour. Nothing. Still calling and texting. Finally, it is midnight. By this point, my plans are long ruined, but I'm pissed and exhausted. I call her and leave a voicemail saying if she's not home in the next hour, I'm considering the kids abandoned and calling the cops. I also text her this. I try calling her 30 minutes later and it goes to voicemail on the second ring. I text her again and she leaves me on read. If she had reached out saying, "Hey, I'm staying out until X time," I would have stayed. I don't know any of her family nor the father of the kids, so I can't call them. I gave her a grace period of 15 minutes and tried calling again. Finally called the cops. Non-emergency line. They showed up and I showed our agreement in text from earlier in the week confirming that she'd be home by 9. They try contacting her. Didn't answer. I was dismissed and they took the children to the police station. I go home and go to bed. I am awoken at 3 a.m. by a frantic call. It's her. Where are the kids? Why am I not here? I tell her I followed through on my threat. Check the police station. She cursed me out. I hung up and went to bed. The next day, she sends me an essay saying the kid's father was called and there's a DCF investigation launched against her. She called me every name under the sun, but I didn't think I was wrong until I spoke to a friend with kids. She said I should have just waited it out and refused to ever sit for her again. She asked if her potentially losing her kids was worth me being petty. 3 a.m. She notices. Question mark. Well, I think you're NTA. You're not being petty. It's her actions that have caused this situation, not yours. She has shown a total lack of concern for the welfare of her children. NTA. Her behavior is absolutely irresponsible. She deserves a DCF investigation if she can't be bothered to even respond. ETA. If this were like some serious one-time emergency, I'd think, oh wow, a one-time emergency. Maybe she, for whatever reason, wasn't able to get back to you. Quote. But no. This is a repeated deal. NTA. 30-odd minutes late is excusable. But she told you in writing that she'd be out for 3 hours. And ended up staying out for 9. That's not something that happens by accident. And not being contactable by your babysitter is rank negligence. What if one of her kids had had an accident? Oh yes. She'd have blamed that on you as well. Nothing more important than her fun. And that includes her kids. Stand your ground. And maybe warn any other babysitters who she might try to con into working for her in the future. I am gonna go with NTA. You gave her warning. She was well beyond the time she gave you to be home. They aren't your kids. They are safe regardless. She should have considered the consequences of her actions. I do hope the father is stable, though that's my only concern. NTA. She is an adult and a parent. If she cared about her kids, then she should have come home at the time she said she would. Or at least give you an update. She saw your text and still didn't care. She was calling your bluff. If she does lose her kids, that is her fault, not yours. You gave her warning with enough time to come home. She would have done this to other babysitters. So she was eventually going to have an DCF investigation. If the kids are taken away, they should hopefully be giving to the father, who hopefully is a better parent. If they are not taken away, well then let's hope the mother learned her lesson. NTA. You gave her every opportunity under the sun to create a better outcome. You gave her several warnings, and even made sure she got them. Instead, she attempted to hold you hostage for 300% of the agreed upon time. You gave her every consideration. Your friend, however, was being an ass. You were not being petty. She did abandon those children. She knew she did not have childcare for those 6 hours and chose to stay out of the home and make herself unreachable instead. Petty would be doing it after she's late one time by an hour. This was leaving her children without a caregiver in the middle of the night. At a certain point, you had to go home. And calling the police was the only way to ensure they were safe for you to leave. Your friend needs to pull her head out of her ass. If this mother hadn't done anything wrong, they would not have launched a formal investigation. It's not petty to report negligence that really is happening. And if she identifies more with a mother who can't be bothered than you, and will shame you about it, that seems like all you need to know about the future of that friendship. Obviously, the mother is a flaming asshole as well. But I think we all understand why. Edit. You should ask your friend if leaving kids in a situation so harmful that they can be removed is really worth it to be polite. I'd love to hear her try to justify that one. NTA. She literally abandoned her kids. Went intentionally unreachable. What if there had been an emergency? Besides, you communicated several times what was going to happen. The fact that she chose to ignore it is her problem, not yours. She could easily have said she'd be out late at the beginning and offered to pay you for an overnight. Then there'd be no problem. But what she did was prioritize her night out over you and also over her children. That's why DCF is involved. And rightly so. When she asks if potentially losing her kids was worth being petty, ask her back if potentially losing her kids was worth not checking her phone during her night on the town. NTA. One thing I've learned from true crime is the wait 24 hours to file a missing person thing is a myth. She wasn't where she said she'd be when she said and wasn't responding to any communication. She was in fact a missing person at that point. NTA. Being late occasionally is understandable. But it is never okay for a mother to be completely out of contact. One of her kids could have choked to death or something terrible and she wasn't answering her phone. You did the right thing. NTA. Part of parenting is being responsible and realizing you have obligations to others that are not you. I have a 7-year-old. We rarely go out. But when we do, plans are made, and if anything changes, we responsibly let everyone know. If we were to have a sitter, we would be conscientious of her time and would try to let them know as far in advance as possible. If something comes up, if we wanted to stay out longer, we'd ask the sitter if it's okay and offer extra money. What you did was kick her in the ass. You gave her a wake-up call. She likely won't ask you to be a sitter again. But given she's exhibited a pattern of irresponsible behavior, maybe this will show she needs to either A. grow up or B. realize she's a shit parent and seek help. Either way, it's no longer your problem. NTA, I'm basing this on the fact that the dad needed to know what was going on and you had no way to contact him. She was disrespectful, it is one thing, but the fact she didn't notice until 3 a.m. and what state was she in then? Was she capable of looking after the kids at that stage? NTA. She is a terrible client and does not appear to take her role as a mother all that seriously. You will probably not see any pay from this job though. NTA. You made a good faith effort to contact her more than once. She left both you and the police on read and refused to respond, most likely because she assumed her kids were fine and just went on having fun. But the thing is, what if you'd been contacting her because one of the kids was hurt? Or what if the cops were contacting her because you'd been hurt and that's why they were with her kids? You're NTA because she was neglectful. She left her kids in your care, stayed out for hours and hours past when you'd agreed to watch them, and was consistently uncommunicative so that in an emergency you wouldn't have been able to get hold of her. That's genuinely dangerous. Her ex deserved to be aware that she was doing this, and it warrants an investigation. You're the part-time babysitter. You are not responsible for her children's well-being anytime she decides to wander off and refuse to respond to calls and texts all day or night without warning. You absolutely did the right thing. NTA. So now she gives a shit about her kids? Sounds like they need to be with the father. Sorry. NTA. Since when are things like responsibility, compassion and respect a one-way street? This woman broke numerous promises to you, had no respect for your plans, and was completely unreachable by you and by the police while she was out. Under the circumstances, you didn't owe her the favor of helping her avoid a DCF investigation or problems with the children's father. You gave her more than she ever gave you, which was advanced warning about your actions. She just refused to take it and now she's paying the price. NTA. It would be one thing if it was a one-time occurrence, but this is clearly a common thing and makes me concerned about what else is happening in this household that you aren't aware of. I don't think you were being petty, because it's concerning what she's doing so late that makes her unable to answer any calls or texts. You also gave her a bountiful warning and she chose to ignore you, or was incapacitated to the point of being unable to respond to you. Child Protective Services will not take her kids away unless they find a real reason to. So if her kids are taken out of her custody, it will be for a reason. A few questions, but the answers won't change my opinion of NTA. Does she pay you for the extra hours? Do you have any idea what she's out doing in this time that she is not coming home and not responding? I'm interested to know if there were an emergency. If you had to take one of the kids to the hospital and doctors need her permission to perform a procedure, her kid could potentially die because she was uncontactable. She's only got herself to blame. And who comes home at 3 a.m. when they have kids? NTA. She's only got herself to blame. NTA. When people say just don't take the job from her, what they're actually saying is to let her lying and neglect become somebody else's problem instead. Now she just has to face the consequences of her own intentional, repeated actions. NTA. Based off of reading some posts, it seems the mom was just completely ignoring the fact that she even has kids when they are being babysat due to ignoring the calls. Like, what if there had been some kind of emergency and 6 hours late is just messed up? Honestly, with how negligent she is with her children, you would have been in the wrong for not calling the authorities.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.